Hi there, my name is Rendani. Today we are having a conversation on interview skills. This conversation is targeted at candidates who might be going to attend their interview for the very first time. This conversation is also appropriate for a candidate who might have a lot of experience in attending interviews. This is a nice refresher course for those who feel that they are very experienced in attending interviews. Now, one of the things that causes a lot of anxiety in respect of interviews is not knowing what to expect during an interview. Now, this conversation will help you and equip you with information of what is going to take place during an interview so that you may be relaxed and be filled with quite confidence during your performance in an interview. Now, we are going to focus on the following areas of preparation. One, we are going to look at how do you prepare for an interview. Number two, we are going to look at the most frequently asked questions during an interview so that we take away all the anxiety. The next area of focus will be to look at the most sought after skills, the skills that most prospective employers are looking for in a candidate. We are also going to deal with communication skills, how you present yourself and how you come across so that you can put your best foot forward. We are also going to focus on the do's and don'ts during the interview. And of course, one area that is critical when you are going for an interview is how you dress up for the interview. We are also going to look at the post-interview process of selection and appointment. And then we'll conclude the interview by wrapping up by looking at the most important aspects of this conversation. Thank you very much. Prepare yourself, buckle up, and have a blast of an experience as we go through this. How to prepare for an interview. This is what you need to pay attention to. Your job advert. Look at that job advert. Pay specific attention to the job description, the job requirements, skills and experience that are required in that job in that job advert. It is very important to read that job advert with understanding. I recall during my interview days when I attended an interview, I neglected to read the job advert with understanding. And the next thing, there was this surprise question where they wanted me to explain my own understanding and interpretation of the job requirements. It was a tricky situation and I navigated the question with a great deal of difficulty. So make sure that you are not caught off guard. Read the job advert and understand what is required of you. In fact, just after you've read and understood the job advert, match your skills, your personality, your strength against the job requirements. Actually, this step will also help you to select your job interviews properly, because it is not every interview that you would like to attend. Rather, you would like to select those interviews where you've got better prospects for success. How do you do that? You read the job advert, you match your qualifications, your personality, your values, and experience, job experience, to make sure that there's a fit between what the role requires and your qualifications. How do you get to understand what your prospective employer is all about. Remember, information is very, very, very important. You need to research your prospective employer. During that interview session, you need to demonstrate that you've got interest in your employer and you've done your homework on the prospective employer by making sure that you focus on the mission of the prospective employer, the history, the values, products and services, what are they selling? One other area of interest that you might want to look at is the recent news articles about that prospective employer. Also pay specific attention to industry trends in which your prospective employer is operating. Where can you get this kind of information? Absolutely, you need to visit their website. You need to read their annual reports. Of course, the press articles that I talked about are also a very useful source of information regarding your prospective employer. Again, go and talk to previous and current employees of your prospective employer. Just a word of caution there, watch out for those employees who might be disgruntled, who may not give you a balanced view of a prospective employer. What else do you need to prepare? Of course, I can hear you whispering logistics. If this is a face-to-face interview where you need to go to the premises of the prospective employer, it is important to understand how you move from where you stay to the prospective employer. Understand the routes, know how to find transport if you are going to use public transport, understand how long it takes to get there. There is nothing that can throw you off balance than to wake up and find that you don't know where the prospective employer is. Hence, make sure that you've got the address of the prospective employer handy. Make sure that you've got your GPS if you need to navigate your way to the interview location. One other important aspect that you need to prepare is to prepare for the interview, the actual interview. Make sure that you anticipate the questions that are going to be asked during the interview. You can do this by preparing those questions, asking a friend or a family member to ask you those questions, and then responding to those questions and gauging the effectiveness of your responses. Also, you need to familiarize. One other area of preparation is to familiarize you with the latest trends in the job market, the kind of person that they are looking for, the kind of skills that they are looking for, the prospective employees are looking for. It is important to do that. How are you supposed to dress for that interview? There is no one size fits all as far as this is concerned. However, the following tips are very important. You need to dress appropriately. How can you dress appropriately? Make sure you research the dress code of that particular employer. Remember, by now you would have perhaps talked to previous employees and current employees. Take that opportunity to ask them about the dress code. Most importantly, make sure you avoid overdressing or underdressing. The bling blings, avoid them at all costs. If the company dress code is casual, make sure you go there dressed a little bit more formal, just to create that sense that you're taking them very seriously and to present a professional and polished image. Remember, you must switch your mindset and conduct to the selling mode, because you are selling. You want to sell to the prospective employer. You want to put your best foot forward, that you are the best fit for the role for which they want, the role that they want to fill. The next thing that you need to focus on in your preparations is to review your qualifications. Take time to reflect on your relevant qualifications, your background, your skills, your accomplishments, and your experience, your work experience. Make sure that you focus on the attributes that are relevant for this role that you are going to apply for. Remember, always keep in mind that the idea here is to demonstrate that there's a best fit between the role for which you are applying and you as the candidate. The next thing that you need to remember in your preparations is to take along all the necessary documents. These documents include your resume, the job advert itself, certificates, relevant certificates of course, testimonials that are relevant for this role, and of course your notepad and your pen for taking down notes and for noting important information during the interview. Now let's turn to the kind of questions that you can expect during the interview. There are the following categories are very common during interviews. There are those category of questions that seek to test your problem solving skills, because remember, your prospective employer wants to fill a role in order to solve specific problems. It is therefore important to make sure that you are able to demonstrate problem solving skills. There are also questions that are geared towards testing your technical ability. These are questions that that are related to your key performance areas. If you are a welder, if you are a driver, there will be specific questions that are related to a welder. If you are a marketer, there will be technical questions related to marketing. So make sure that you polish your knowledge of these questions. And believe you me, some of them may be academic. In one of the interview, I went in there and I was asked questions like, define project management. There are such questions. Theoretical questions and very practically oriented questions. So make sure that you leave no stone unturned in preparing yourself. There are questions that will seek to ascertain your work experience. Be on the lookout for those ones. And also there will be questions that will be interested in understanding your career ambitions. Where do you see yourself, for example, in the next 3 to 5 years? Now, allow me to conclude this section by stepping back to the issue of problem solving skills. It is important to understand the rationale of these questions that I'm talking about. And a case in point here is my experience during an interview that, as an interviewer, I've seen candidates short-selling themselves. For example, many candidates would come to an interview and they would be asked a question that seeks to tease out their problem-solving skills. For example, they would be requested to explain a situation in their previous work experience where they encountered a problem. To explain the nature of the problem and how they went about solving the problems. And a significant number of candidates actually responded to this question by saying, I've never encountered a problem. Now that's highly unlikely that in a working environment you will not encounter a problem, because in the first place you are employed to solve problems. Now the next area of focus that I want to focus on is on the most sought after skills and attributes by prospective employers. The following skills are very important. Your data analysis skills, especially now that we are in the 4th industrial revolution. Your coding skills are in high demand. Your problem solving skills that I've already mentioned. Technical skills, your people skills. Are you able to work in a team environment. Your multitasking skills, very important. Can you handle different tasks at the same time? Resilience. Are you that kind of a person who can keep going, who can keep going even if you are working in a pressure cooker of an environment? Or are you a quitter? Your resilience is very important. Project management. Are you a person, a finisher? Are you a person who can start and finish projects within budget, within the cost, and within the desired quality levels? Computer literacy skills are very important. And remember, with some of the interviews, you might be put to task. For example, if it's an interview that is looking for a person who's computer literate, they might put you at in front of a computer to operate the computer at that point in time. So it's very important to be candid. If you know something, you know it, and if you don't know it, perhaps don't even give it a try. Now let's focus on how to communicate. These communication and presentation skills are very important because the prospective employer has to first get a positive impression of who you are based on how you communicate and how you present yourself. You know the cliche, first impression last. So it's very important. In your communication, make sure to maintain eye contact. And I want to stress that always use these tips. These tips that you are getting from this conversation, adapt it to your environment. For example, there are cultural dynamics. With other cultures, it is disrespectful to look a person in the eyes, but with other cultures, if you don't maintain eye contact, then you are viewed as a dodgy person. Mind your body language. Body language is very important. And it's important to also make sure that you you understand the cultural dynamics on how to use body language. It is important to also use formal language, no foul language, no slang, because that an interview is a very formal, professional kind of an environment. Positive language, use positive language. For example, say I believe instead of I think. Be positive. Be positively dispositioned. Pay attention to your voice projection. It's important to vary the tone of your voice so that even if somebody in the panel is trying to doze off, they can come back into the interview. Because if your tone is flat, always at one level, it's easy for somebody to get used to it and then forget that they are listening they're in an interview or they are listening to somebody during an interview. So vary your tone. Listen attentively. It is easy for everyone to listen, but it's not easy for everyone to listen actively. Active listening is important. Make sure that you are present during the interview. You are not just going through the motions. And be relevant. Now, let's look at the do's and don'ts during the interview. Of course, by all means, sell yourself without exaggerating. Be honest. It is wise to ask questions where you don't understand. And remember, during an interview, the refreshments may be served, and there is nothing wrong with accepting refreshments. The use of foul language is completely a no-no. So use clean language. Make sure you use clean language. Train yourself to use clean language. And also persevere. I was given a rude awakening when I went to one interview, and it actually went on and on. So always be prepared for some interviews. Some interviews are not a sprint but a marathon. There was an interview that I attended. I expected it to be maybe for an hour or 130 minutes at the most. Guess what? It went on for 3 hours, close on to 4 hours. So you need to be prepared for anything. Again, take responsibility during an interview. Don't go there and start blaming the whole world except yourself. When you talk about your previous employer, your colleagues, do not come across as somebody who has got an entitlement mentality, somebody who doesn't want to take responsibility at all. And be confident. Be assertive, but don't be overconfident. Now let's deal with the don'ts. It is not acceptable to be fidgeting during an interview. It doesn't give a good image of yourself. Maybe you've got a pen or your phone and you're busy fidgeting with it. Remember, body language during an interview gives you away. When you are under stress or uncomfortable, they can tell from your voice that there's a strain in your voice, which could be a sign of the fact that you may not be confident about what you're talking about. I spoke about the importance of not having an entitlement mindset. Don't give that impression during an interview. Don't be be confident but not overconfident. Don't be irresponsible, blaming others except yourself, and be prepared for drawn out interviews. Now, the interview itself, the interviewers, what can you expect in this regard as to who is likely to be conducting your interview? The interviewers may be in the form of a panel. It may range from one person to the whole panel, maybe of 5-6 people. The panel is usually made of a line manager, supervisor might be there, a union representative may be there, and there are roles that are assigned to different members of the panel. There will most definitely be someone who is chairing the conversation. The chair will introduce the panel and give the background, welcome everyone, and lay out the agenda of the interview. The members will take turns to ask prepared questions that have been prepared in advance. Some may sit there and observe, especially union members are always there to observe. Any member of the panel might make a follow-up to the question that has been asked. And let's look at after what happens during the interview when you are answering questions. The members of the panel will be rating your responses. Members of the panel will definitely be rating your responses. And after that interview, they will take their ratings. They will also take their notes based on your responses to the questions during the interview. And there will be a deliberation session on the interview. Now, the members of the panel will announce their scores for every question. What they will do now, they will assign score to each candidate that has been through the interview, and the candidates will be shortlisted according to the following criteria. The candidate who has achieved the best score for the interview And they will also look at appointability. Are you appointable? Because it's possible for you to be the best candidate in terms of the ratings, yet found not appointable by the panel. There might be a risk that they may be looking at. You have performed well. Maybe they found that your track record is such that you have hardly spent 6 months with the past 3 to 4 employers, and perhaps the panel feels uncomfortable with that. So it doesn't follow that the candidate with the most rating will definitely get the appointment. If the panel, after the panel has come to an agreement now as to the shortlisting of candidates according to who performed the best, maybe their top 3 candidates, they will first contact the first candidate. If the first candidate does not accept the offer, they will go to the next best appointable candidate. That's how it will go. And that will conclude our interview at this point. But the most important consideration, the most important takeaway as we wrap up this conversation is to remember that the best way to do well in an interview is to prepare, and prepare. Thank you very much for taking part in this conversation. I wish you all the best during your interview. The best is yet to come, and make sure to watch our video on preparing for an online meeting for those of you who will be attending online interviews. Thank you.